فاعل وتصدق وقدم خير الجزاء وما نقص مال من صدقة. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين.
Always we to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we praise Him, we thank Him. Indeed, it's a testimony that we live on it and die, and inshallah we enter Jannah with it. We send our blessing and salutation and greetings upon His Prophet and Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his families and companions, the one who conveyed a message, and whoever deviate from his message will go astray. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in many verses how to fear Him. Today's topic is Hajj. It is one of the pillars of Islam, with its rituals and worship and pilgrimage and all the practices that comes with the Hajj. The linguist meaning for the Hajj is a source, as someone who had the intention, or the one who is meant, or a man with the evidence. But terminology meaning is to make a journey to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a specific description in a special time that consists of special conditions to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hajj was mentioned in the Quran 23 times in general, where verses talk about Hajj, and 12 times as follows, like the past verb, one active noun, and one a name, and 9 times as a source about the Hajj. Also the Quran described Hajj with its legal meaning, which means is to perform the rituals to the first house that was made for worship, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hajj pre-Islamically was an obligation, or before the mission of the Prophet ﷺ upon the nations before us. It was an obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even before Islam came, since Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim salam built the first house, as he was the one who built the Kaaba that people circulate around it today. It was the first house of worship built for mankind. In the Quran, it proves that Hajj was made as an obligation upon people before us and before Islam. So with its rituals, people would come from every deep valleys or mountains or foot or camels or walking, come into this Hajj, men and women from far and near, and circulate around the house that Ismail Ibrahim made, which was the first house built for worship. Hajj was made for all kind of people. They would come to Hajj for a religious purpose. Then they would socialize or make da'wah or message or trade and meet other people from different countries at Hajj. Also know others from different countries and then introduce themselves. And Hajj was to unify people. The mushrikeen or the polytheists had control over Hajj, and they practiced its rituals until after the conquest of Mecca, until Islam forbid for them to come to Hajj, which was the 9th year of Hijrah. They should not come closer to Mecca or Hajj. They made Hajj according to the Ibrahim belief or his faith. But because they fabricated and changed the Hajj rituals and performing the paganism in ignorance way in the Hajj, the Prophet ﷺ did perform Hajj, but then he stood on the Mount of Arafah and he performed Hajj rituals and practices according to the teachings of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then Quran was revealed to him, and then he shows the people how to correct and do Hajj the right way with its rituals and how to perform pilgrimage. Hajj is universal with its worship and its rituals, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran to all humanity to perform Hajj. All prophets' message had the Hajj pillar in it. Yunus and Moses alayhim salam did perform Hajj, as it was narrated by Ibn Abbas. And Ibn Ashur narrated said that, elaborating, he said Hajj is a month of worship to the Arabs, as they inhabited from Ibrahim alayhi salam. In their rituals, they would wear garments without thread and avoid women and sin, and they would not hunt. They would circle the Kaaba and run back and forth between Safa and Marwa. And then they would stand in Arafah. Then they would do the sacrifice. Some would abstain from certain foods during the Hajj period. Some would perform Hajj naked, while some would not stay under the shade of the sun, and the sun could be on them. And some would not talk at all, and others would not drink any alcoholic beverages during the Hajj pilgrimage. And they had their own made-up rituals and rules until the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to change it. How did Ibrahim call to the Hajj? Allah commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam to proclaim the call for Hajj. After he and Ismail alayhi salam did the foundation pillars of the first house that was made for worship. Every person's heart was eager and yearning and was so attached to see the first house that Ibrahim and Ismail built for worship. And they would come to circle it from every part of the world. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, how can my voice reach the globe? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you call it, you proclaim it, and I will send it. And it was mentioned that Ibrahim stood on the maqam, where he stood up, or the black rock, and some say Abi Qubays. Then his voice reached every inch of the globe by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some narrations said that the mountains flattened and Ibrahim's voice traveled through the land, and every living being heard his call, even the worms in the stomach, in the ligaments, trees, stones, clays, mud. And people's hearts were so attached when they heard this voice that was proclaiming to come to the Hajj, to come and worship and circle around the house. So if you attempt to sacrifice for the Eid, do not clip your fingernails, or trim your beard, or your hair, or your underarms, or any other hair in your groins. It's a sunnah that we need to keep it alive and practice it as we follow the pilgrimage while they're doing the Hajj and perform the rituals. And finally, the 10 days of the Hajj that's coming up, next week maybe, are the best days throughout the year. And the deeds and the actions in it are acceptable and multiplied in rewards. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the best actions is the actions of the worship in these 10 days. And they said, even jihad, he said, even jihad, unless a man goes out for jihad with his wealth and his soul and don't come back. So some scholars explain what is the difference between these 10 days and the last 10 days of Ramadan. The last 10 days of Ramadan, or they say they are equal, because the 10 days of Ramadan is the night, because the night of the power in it. And the 10 days of the Hijjah is the days. So the actions are all accepted and multiplied in both 10 days. And as a Muslim, we perform worship and good actions throughout the year. We finish Ramadan, and then these 10 days come. And our whole year is all worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not forget to donate to the masjid. The masjid expenses are pretty high, as the Sheikh mentioned. And also do not forget your brothers and sisters in the Aqsa and around the world.